Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining this episode. We're going to be talking with Sarah Brunet, a fellow immigration lawyer in Los Angeles, California. Sarah's actually originally from France. And is Brunet pronounced differently? I've realized French people pronounce everything totally differently than people in America.
Correct. Yes. Yes. So actually, my name is Brunet. Brunet. So which means like a short person with dark hair. So it works, you know. But yeah, you can say brunette. You can say brunet. That will work.
Okay.
I'll respond to it.
So don't say the T. That's the main thing. The French
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. You don't say the T. You just say a.
Brunet. Okay. Well, thank you for
You
coming on.
got it.
You
Perfect.
practice business-based immigration, family, some are family-based too. I know you're big on O's and stuff, but we're going to get into the 10 questions about your background. But before we start, I just want to let everyone know that we're actually going to be doing a webinar on May 20th about the E2 visa program. Could you talk a little bit about that and what you do with the ABA that started this?
Sure. So with the ABA, I co-chair the immigration committee for the Young Lawyer Division, so the division for lawyers under 40. And we host a series of webinars. Technically, we're supposed to have in-person, classes as well, but not currently. So we're really switching everything on a digital platform, and we've hosted a few webinars so far, and we're really trying to tackle like the basics. So for people that are starting immigration, that are new in the field, or even prospective immigrants that might want to learn, that's just material that is accessible to people in a way where it's not overly complicated. You don't have to be an expert to understand what we're going to be talking about. So that's what we do.
And so this is going to be Wednesday, morning. I mean, 10 o'clock Pacific time. I think 1 p.m. Eastern. There's a link I'll put in the show notes, and it's free. And we're also going to have Estelle Berenbaum and Brittany Thomas Faith, as well as us, talking about E2. It's not a CLE format, like it's going to have a handout. It's really just talking about experience and what we've dealt with. So I think even if you're a new lawyer or an older lawyer who's been practicing for a while, all this helps because you see different perspectives and different country condition issues that pop up. So it's gonna be a fun time, and we've just preparing it was a lot of fun, and the discussion was nonstop. We had to force ourselves off the line because everyone had so many war stories, and I found those are some of the best, most informative stuff. So I look forward to it this Wednesday. It's gonna be live, so please join in and view it. So okay, Sarah. So let's jump into it right now. Start. We talked about your name. Now, where did you grow up? I said France, but what part of France, or what was your story?
So a lot of people would assume I'm from Paris, but I'm not. I'm from a tiny village that is adjacent to Geneva, Switzerland. And I grew up kind of like in an area that is mountains and lakes. So it's very nature oriented. One bigger city near my village is Annecy, Anneci. If ever anybody wants to Google it, it's the most beautiful city on earth. It's just very calm. The water on the lake is like turquoise. It's a different lifestyle.
And what made you leave that?
Oh gosh.
We go over there. You're coming over here.
Right. Actually, that's a really good question. Well, I first came here to study English. I went to Santa Barbara City College, and there I met my husband.
Oh, I see.
So
Loved it.
yeah, so that's how I ended up here.
And then how'd you find your way to immigration law of all the different practice areas?
Well, that's a really good question because I actually thought that I was going to do insurance related matters because that's what I was already trained in France. And before jumping in the whole, insurance field, I really wanted to do something a little bit more, not people-based, but I just wanted to do something, that felt good. So I decided that I would volunteer, and you can find so many opportunities in the immigration realm. So that's how I found my way into immigration, is I just started volunteering and taking pro bono cases. And then at some point I was just like, well, maybe this is it. This is what I need to be doing. So it's not that I really chose immigration. It's just that I just felt like this was the right thing for me at that point.
Yeah,
in life.
a lot of immigration areas just kind of fall into and realize, oh, this is a great practice area. I'm so lucky I got involved in this area. And what
Yeah.
kind of firm do you have? What's firm size and staff, all that kind of stuff?
So I have a really small boutique law firm. I actually onboard only 3 clients a month.
Hmm.
The idea is to really have this like one-on-one, relationship, and also to be able to have fast turnarounds, because I don't really like when cases are
Yeah,
just,
for sure.
you know,
Yeah.
dragging. I think it's not a good idea for anybody. It's not profitable for the immigration lawyer. It's so much, stress on the law firm. So it's me. And, I do have someone to assist me with scanning, post, and all these little things, but not at the moment because we can't have anybody come into the office.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's pretty much me.
Interesting. And what areas is your practice focus on? What areas of immigration law?
So I do a lot of O's and EB1s. I really like talent-based immigration. I think it's just, I don't know, it really fulfills me. I do E's, and then I do also national interest waivers, PERMs, and then family-based immigration, and that's pretty much it.
What are I was talking with a colleague who does a lot of perm, and she's worried about the consequences of what's going to happen under this administration. What are your thoughts and how are you dealing with that? Because like O1s are okay right now. They haven't really hit that, but EBs in May. You think EB1A and national interest waiver would be like separate kind of things, but they kind of get bunched up into the whole thing. Like, you want extraordinary ability people coming over here. But I mean, you've diversified in the sense that you have both the non-immigrant and the immigrant category, but investors as well and family.
hmm Yeah, I think, to be honest, I'm actually most worried about O's. I know a lot of people think that, it's going to be totally okay for O's. I'm most worried about O's because a lot of them are not going to have anything to do for
Yeah.
a while. And maintaining status is a huge, it's just a huge problem. I know that there might not be as much scrutiny on O's, but I think that it doesn't matter if there is not a ton of scrutiny. You should still do everything right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm most worried about. I think, for like perm processes, then it's just going to be something that I think we'll see the consequences later on, maybe on the ability to pay, or but I think for now, my main worry is O's and potentially people that are here on E's and are going to have to renew soon.
Mhm.
So I think that that's my main worry.
Kind of on the E's that are here, it's gonna be hard, but maybe if there's new E's coming in where they have money and they see opportunity in the US, that may be good.
Mhm.
Permit, having like competition in the workplace and high unemployment is gonna be hard. And for O's, I have colleagues that do live event. People become musicians, and there's no live events for them. So, but maybe in Texas and Florida they'll have events, so that keeps it alive. But in California, that's shut down. Another aspect is people who are competitors in sports because their competitions are not there. They have to be able to explain like they're going to be doing training, and that's required part of and it's kind of re-explain all that kind of stuff, but it's just going to be a huge headache. It's going to be
Yeah, I think realistically, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do.
yeah.
Um, I I have a lot of clients every day that call me that are like, "Well, I'm doing this. I filed for unemployment. What does this mean? Do I need to go home?" Like, and I think there's definitely, and that's something that really is true for immigration, is a lot of lawyers have different take on the circumstances. I think my take is always to be extremely careful with whatever I advise. So very often people are like, oh well, that's not exactly what I wanted to hear, and there's a lot of like, well, maybe you should think about flying home and then you come back when when things pick up again. And so I think there's a lot of like hard choices for people to make right now.
Yeah, it's just like unbelievable what's going on. So what is that you like most about your practice?
I think that I really like the relationship I have with some of my clients. I mean, most of my clients actually. I received a ton of masks recently, which I thought was like the nicest thing. You know, it's for people that know me, they know I love chocolate, so I get a lot of chocolate. But receiving masks, it was almost like, oh, we want you to stay healthy and, you know, keep working on our case until you know, until the end of this pandemic. So I thought, oh, you guys really care about me. I think the relationship is wonderful. I think it's also fun to work with people that are driven.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of fuels me, you know. I mean, of course you have the option to, you know, lay in bed all day and read books or do whatever, and but working with people that are with, you know, this kind of like dream that fuels them, that makes them want to like move to America and try the American dream, then it's like, okay, well, you know, clearly I'm going to be motivated too. I love the dynamic. I love the energy.
Here, I know when I see lawyers who like immigration lawyers that don't like being immigration lawyers anymore, usually it's because they don't like their clients anymore. It's just like they don't like to be around them, and it's such a interdependent relationship and so intense that if you don't like the people you're working with, you got to stop. And that's one of the reasons people or associates get tired of it, because the partner just says you have to do this case, and they're working on a case with a person they don't like. That's what the independence of a solo or that kind of firm is so important, because you can pick and choose who you want to
Well,
work with.
yeah, I think you and I kind of have this ability to really streamline who well, I wouldn't say who I want to work with, is who I believe I can help the most.
Yeah.
Because of course, like sometimes there's like some people that you're more drawn to. But sometimes I also see people that maybe, you know, we don't have much in common on a personal level, but I know that as, you know, as an attorney, I can definitely help them. So I think sometimes I'm also like, well, I think I can help this person the most.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that you say that. It's true. I think we get burnt when we are not choosing people that will be a good match.
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, we all have moments where like, oh my gosh, you know, this is a really difficult case. But if you have a client who's like super helpful, who's a delight to talk to, then it makes things a lot easier.
Now, when you have like a case where you care about the case more than the client does, and you're hounding them for some paperwork, and it's like, no, I'm trying to help you. Why?
Right.
It makes it really frustrating. You're like, but yeah, that independence of being able to pick and choose and just work with people, or even fire a client if they're just out of hand. Like when I worked for firms, I didn't like something, I couldn't fire them. They're just like, just deal with it. You know, especially if money is an issue and you need cases. That choosing cases because you need the money as opposed to you want the case is such a bad decision. But especially on these current circumstances, it's hard for some people, they have to. But you never want to make a choice like that just based on money, because you take on people's problems. You're signing a contract to absorb their problems into your life. So.
Right, absolutely. I would say, and you know, that's something very interesting, is I recently kind of challenged myself to try something new, which was to do free consultations, because I saw so many people that did it and they were like, Sarah, you're missing out on wonderful cases. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try with 10 leads to do free consultations, 0 conversion rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated my life for like 3 weeks.
Yep.
You know, I think maybe it works for some people, but like I know that I'm also going to match with people that are like me, which I never go for a free consult. I want to, you know, I want to learn something, and I don't want to feel like I'm wasting anybody's time. So I'd rather pay for what I'm getting. You know, I pay, I get the info, I leave, and if I need, I return, but otherwise, like, that's it. And so I think that that's also something for people, is like, don't make decisions that have never worked for you. Mm-hmm. Right now, like, don't try to change everything just because uncertain times.
Exactly. Especially when you have a model like we do, which is low volume. If you have high volume, you probably have staff and stuff. So you have the consultation, then you just hand it off, or just some sort of machinery, right, a factory kind of system. But when it's such a personal relationship, you spend so much time getting emotionally involved even with your clients, that if you see 10 people free and it doesn't connect, it's just a lot to go through to those kind of numbers. And if
and I think it's something.
Free.
Yeah, some clients, I wonder, like, you know, if they realize, for instance, that we have this kind of setup, I wonder if they see the value. I know that my clients see the value,
Mhm.
but I wonder if a lot of people are aware of the different kind of machines
Model.
that you can
Yeah.
have behind. And it doesn't mean that another model might not be
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
better. It could be a really good setup for, like, if you have 100 perms to do,
Mhm.
like, we're not the people,
Exactly.
it's you need a huge machine.
But it's one of my most interesting areas I always think about. Like, I was reading the book for John Lennon's immigration lawyer,
Mhm.
Wild for a corporation. His dad was like the main John Lennon's lawyer, and then his son is a practice now in New York. And in the book, it's a fascinating book. I always recommend everyone read it. John Lennon's wife Yoko Ono chose the immigration attorney, and at the time, and this is in like 60s and 70s, they had hundreds of millions of dollars. I can't believe how rich John Lennon's family is such a billionaire back in the day,
Oh.
inflation adjusted. So they chose this guy who was a solo, wasn't that big name, and they had their pick of. They could chose whichever lawyer they wanted. And at the end of the book, he asked Yoko, after being successful, really fighting for her husband. I was like, "Why did you choose me?" And she's like, "I went to my tarot card reader, and she said you're the attorney to choose." And it's like it's so arbitrary sometimes when we think we have nice videos and nice logos and a nice website and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't really matter. It's like the things people choose to choose a lawyer is so random, but it is what it is.
It's really funny because I actually once, it was when I was first beginning and I wasn't charging consult fees. And so I spent a lot of time with this guy who had an O1 and he wanted to talk about his EB1. And so I looked at his case, I gave him my input. I also kind of helped him understand what he could do to improve his chances. And
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time with him. And then when it was time for him to choose, whether he wanted to move forward with me or not, he actually went to a psychic, and she told him that the attorney was older than him. The attorney that would take his case would be older than him. And so he went with another lawyer who is actually a friend. So, I mean, I'm not that upset. But at that moment, I was like, wow, I did so much. And he went with, somebody else because a psychic told him so. Um, and yeah, well, I was just kind of happy because it meant that he thought I was younger than him and I'm not. So so that was the part where I was actually happy. I was like, well, but I'm not I'm not younger than you, but whatever. I didn't say anything. I was just like, I'll let him believe, like, you know that I'm younger.
No, customer getting customers, attract customers, closing, all this kind of stuff. It's there's books and books about this stuff in business house and bookstores, or what used to be bookstores, I guess, in Amazon pages. But it's such a fascinating area of human psychology that goes into it.
For sure.
Now, what do you dislike the most about your practice?
Well, I think sometimes there's just you're going to try to be nice to somebody, so you're going to give them something for free,
Mhm.
and then um, they're going to believe that then everything is for free, and then there's just like there's just this expectation that there is you know a client customer service 24/7 there for them for any question. I think that's the most difficult part, is like this sense that basically because you paid a flat fee, it's like a all you can eat buffet.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the most difficult part about my job, is just setting limits, and I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
So
No, I hear
so just being able to actually deal with the amount of work that was not planned, and also dealing with things that are not work, but then you're just kind of like, you know, hand holding,
yeah.
or being someone's like therapist. And so I think that that's the most difficult part.
That's so important, especially nowadays, because the laws change and there's so many hiccups that pop up that are not reasonable from USCIS or Department of State. And I like have a case where a guy got an immigrant visa and he took too long and now it's going to expire and he can't come because of the travel ban. And so, like, well, he has to get a new immigrant visa, contact the embassy. And he's kind of just expecting me to do it all and keeps calling and asking questions. And that's the last time I'm like, listen, you took too long. You had 6 months to come here. You didn't come. now you got to reinvent everything and start everything. That's going to be a fee. And I hate to say that because he's going to be like, oh, what happened? You're greedy or something like that. But it's like, what do you want me to do? Like, all of a sudden I have like a couple extra hours. That it wasn't my fault that you decided not to come. And so what I've done is like, I have a time limit of how much after an interview or after submission they can get time. It's like an hour or two after submission. I don't enforce that strictly because most time, 99% of the time, it's not needed. But when it does pop up, it's really frustrating. And you know, a lot of people, you know, it's hard for them to pay, especially some countries that are they go unemployed or have, you know, it's just dollars expensive for them to send out. But it is what it is. You know, I have all these other people, you know, are paying too that they deserve the time as well.
Right. I think it's, I was actually talking to a client about this because I was really frustrated with his, he kept changing the relationship with the agent. And I was just kind of, he could tell I was extremely like, yeah, frustrated with the whole thing. And he was like, but Sarah, you've never told me that it was extra work for you. You're always like, oh, okay, yes, we'll deal with it. And he was like, but you know, you have to tell people like, okay, we've done this and that was, you know, the reasonable course of the case. But if you want to change the whole thing, then it's going to be different and it's going to be extra work for me that wasn't planned. And the flat fee is what's reasonable for the case, not a whole like, you know, new case every 10 seconds. So I think that that's also something, and it was funny that my client actually advised me on how to break the news. You know, just saying, okay, we're done here, like we've done this, and now I have to charge you extra for this. So
it's even in personal life, it's like being passive aggressive a little bit. It's like instead of communicating with our, you know, clients or loved ones, it's just letting them know, you know, holding it in and kind of getting frustrated. So a lot of people, if they're reasonable, they'll understand it when you say, okay, this wasn't expected, this is that. And some people won't be, but it's really important to not take it in. That's something I do as well. It's like I got to break out of it, just communicate what's actually happening, because we make it seem so seamless because they're like, oh, my lawyer didn't do anything, but they don't realize behind the scenes what we have to do and how many questions we have to ask and research. They don't doesn't click.
Yeah, but I have no idea. And I think you and I kind of have this like the same personality as like, oh, sure, like, you know, we'll welcome anything. We want to make you feel super comfortable. You're at home here. And then we end up having to take, you know, all the extra work, and we make it seem so seamless that we have no idea that it's actually an issue. So I think we all, I mean, at least I need to tell people like, hey, by the way, this has changed and that's extra work for me. So
you know, it starts with the initial meeting and then the contract to really set the tone. So a lot of my consultations now, recently especially, because like public charge pops up, wasn't expected, I say, listen, they might change the rules on us, they might do this, they might add another form into DS 5540 we don't expect, embassies might shut down, there's all these things, NBC might lose the case, they might not. So we had to prepare for it as a limit. I just let them know like the reality of how many complexities they are. Hopefully they listen, but it's been an interesting time. So moving on from that one, what advice do you wish you had, you should give someone when they're starting, like that you wish you had?
Well, I actually had amazing advice when I started. So I'm not sure there is an advice that I didn't get because I got full mentoring from so many wonderful lawyers, including you. So I think,
how did you connect with these mentors?
well, that's the good question. I think here is volunteering. You're going to attract people that have the same, you know, like the same values, but that want to share, and they don't just want to share with pro bono cases, but also want to share with like younger lawyers who are super eager to learn. And I think that that's how I got all the advice that I needed, is by connecting with people in just like really good circles. So I gravitated in circles that were just very helpful.
Wonderful. So give us like a link. Was it going through Ayla or just, you know, emailing, you know, people you see that you like and talking with them?
So actually it was for LACBA.
Oh,
yeah, I think.
LACBA was LA County Bar Association, right? The immigration section. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have an immigration clinic downtown LA. And if you go and volunteer, they'll kind of train you for very basic stuff. And a lot of lawyers a lot of immigration lawyers, I believe, have volunteered through their years there, and you'll meet just wonderful people.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. And what is one of your most memorable moments as an immigration lawyer?
I think it was sitting down with this girl who was super frustrated with her O1 case that was not going anywhere with a big law firm in LA. And so I think what I do best is screen people. People come in for a consultation, they sit sometimes for an hour and a half, and it's like horrible. They get 100 questions, but at the end of the day, sometimes I find something really good, a really interesting solutions for them. And that was the moment I realized that she was a US citizen. So we were about, I think, 90 minutes into the consultation. That's usually when, things kind of, start. We've covered pretty much all of our bases. And I screen people for citizenship. I know it sounds silly, but I screen everybody for citizenship because you never know.
Yeah.
And there you go. She was a US citizen. And I mean, it wasn't easy to get her citizenship. It was actually quite complicated, but eventually, I think after 6 months, she got her passport. And that was just like one of these moments where you're like, thank God,
Yeah.
it was like, I'm not sure why we met, and I'm not sure why you've been to 10 immigration lawyers before me and they didn't see it.
Yeah.
But there it is, boom. And so now she lives in Orange County. She, she's happy. She's a really cool photographer. So that was like one of these moments where you're like, cool, okay, that makes sense.
Was one of the hassles with getting the passport dealing with the Department of State to just issue the passport? I found them to
Well,
be difficult sometimes.
it was really, the hassle was really eligibility, because we had to show that the mother had enough physical presence in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just proving that was a little bit harder, because my client was 30-ish. So we had to show presence of her mother prior to her birth. So you can imagine it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So finding records of her presence were actually really difficult. So the eligibility was definitely the issue there.
Question, yeah.
Yeah.
But just finding different Social Security stuff and like no that hunts for that kind of stuff. Nowadays it's so much easier with digital stuff, because I have clients who have the situation, but they have emails they could show, or like pay stubs that are fresh enough. But when it's like, I had one guy, he was here in the 80s, and his daughter qualified, she was a citizen, but he's like, I didn't pay taxes, and I just so I worked cash, so the Social Security wasn't getting information. I'm like, oh my God. But he had gotten married and divorced several times, so there's court records of these marriages. But he's like, I can't remember my ex-wife's names because he had moved away. I'm like, how do you know I know your ex-wife's names? Come on now. And so we were just searching records in Orange County. And because it was the 80s, I couldn't pull them up online, a lot of these court records. So we had to like do all this extra work just to get the names of the spouses, so we could look up the marriage and divorce certificates to show if he was physically here to get that. It's sometimes just so much work you don't expect.
Yeah, no, it was insane here because she was quite young, and the mom had moved to Canada. I think she was like around 16, 17. But the dad had, like visitation rights, and she was coming for vacation. So it was like, bringing in like proof that the dad had, rights to have his daughter, so which was the mom, like over for the summer, so it was actually a huge ordeal. It was extremely complicated, and you're not sure if you're a lawyer or if you're, a detective at that point, but it was really fun. I think another thing was actually, and that was a really good case, is I had a corporate client, a factory, nothing humanitarian there, and his sister got denied for her adjustment of status. And me, I pick up the phone even if it's 9 o'clock. especially like for this corporate client who had never called me, outside business hours. I was like, whoa, there's a problem. So he calls me, he's like, Sarah, my sister got her adjustment of status denied. Like, can you please have a look? And I'm like, well, I'm not the lawyer on the case, but you seem really freaked out and I like you. So, put your sister on the phone, whatever. So fast forward, the mom had a son. Well, so basically the woman who had the adjustment denied had a son who was about to turn 21, and we're in California. And the prospect of getting the adjustment approved was a little not great. And basically, we realized that we could file a special immigrant juvenile status for the son who was about to turn 21, but we had to like move forward really quickly.
Yeah.
And we did. And he actually just got his green card, I think 2 weeks ago. So that was last year. And within a year, he went from like no status to having a green card. He had his adjustment denied and, based on his mom's case, and now he has a green card. So that was also a really good moment. For people that don't know immigration, I fast forwarded a lot of steps.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the SIV and special immigrant visa stuff, and I'd like to talk about it later on privately. I want to see what happens. I don't do those kind of cases, but I'm like, I should probably know that kind of law better just in case I have a case.
Yeah, so basically anybody who has a child who is either under 18 or under 21 in some states, and maybe who has a deficient parent, like as the other parent, like just have a little like light bulb in your head and have your kid screened for SIJS. You never know, they may qualify.
And if you want training on SIJS, SIJS, there's a lot of pro bono organizations that do free training on that too. So that's something to look into to get that. Yeah. Okay, and what is your favorite marketing method?
No marketing.
No marketing.
Yeah.
Bad.
That's my.
Well, how do people learn about you? How do you get clients?
It's all referral, and I ended up paying for like a placement on a web page. Like it's like a French like website, because the rep was so lovely and she kept calling me and telling me to purchase this thing. So I was just like, fine, like I'll pay for it. And it's never brought a case.
Yeah.
So no marketing is good marketing for me.
Yeah. And what kind of outside hobby do you have outside of immigration practice?
Well, I love sewing. Let me show you what I do. I always have some around.
Oh, that's nice.
So I love making little, like, stuffed animals. And I love baking. So yeah, those are my outside hobby. What about you?
It's become my hobby is just everything related to the business or practice of immigration law. So that's all I do. And so that's most of my time. I used to play music, that stopped that, and then guitar and practice piano. Now just either immigration law and business related stuff, or with the kids, just trying to make sure they don't hurt themselves running around after them.
Keeping them alive.
Exactly. Yeah. And for my, like, I edit videos, or like I do these interviews and stuff. It's like a hobby of just interviewing people and try to get better at that skill. But it's a lot of fun. And so recently I'm doing almost an interview every day. And so it's like, it's become my passion, because I love immigration. Is kind of like the same thing. People come for a consultation and you're doing a biographic interview with them. So it's like being a biographer almost. And then, so I get a kick out of that. So I'm just doing more and more. And then I love business. So I'm starting other companies and nonprofits and all this kind of stuff, which will be popping up. You'll all be hearing about that pretty soon. But that's that. Sarah, thank you so much for coming. I look forward to doing our E2 conversation on Tuesday, 20th. Wednesday. Okay, sorry, scratch that. Wednesday, the 20th. And I think people are going to learn a lot. I mean, I learned a lot from our conversation that we had with the rest of the group in preparation for it. So I think we must go.
It's a really good group. So if people are interested in E2s, they're going to get really interesting facts, and it's also somewhat unfiltered. I mean, it is an ABA webinar, but we've decided to not make it a CLE, so we can really actually talk freely about really interesting concepts, interesting cases. We don't have to follow like very specific steps. We can just, fast forward to what's really interesting.
There's a recording. Do you know if the recordings of these become available later, or is it just you get it live, or you don't get it?
It is available, but then I believe you have to be a member of the ABA, and you may have to pay
Okay.
to get the recording. So definitely tune in live so you get it for free.
Perfect. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on board. We'll definitely have you on the show, and we're going to do some CLE, actual CLEs in the coming future. A J1 intern CLE we're going to be recording pretty soon. So we have a lot of stuff lined up for viewers.
Yep, for sure.
Thank you, Sarah. Have a great weekend. It was good talking with you again.
Good talking to you too. Bye. See you.